Hello there. What is going on, my friends? We are doing an Armada build today, and this one is going to be a patron request, actually. We are going to be trying to make the B-Wings work really well and make them a little bit easier to manage and try to give you guys some maybe different options. And this is kind of a recent take for me on a B-Wing build. It won't be all B-Wings. Well, this is going to be one interpretation that I might come up with for a B-Wing squadron build. If you guys are new here to the channel, if you're just learning about Armada, if you're not that familiar, I do cover a lot of tabletop gaming videos for Star Wars games like Armada, Legion, X-Wing. We're also running a huge, epic lightsaber giveaway right now. If you want to enter to win that, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment. Let me know your favorite color of lightsaber in the comments section. More details for that giveaway are found on Crabbok.com. But let's go ahead and we're going to do a build to showcase the B-Wings. I'm using Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder for today's video. It's a fantastic fleet builder. You should definitely check that out. So the B-Wing's probably the best, in my opinion, the best bomber in the game. It's certainly one of the best bombers in the game, but it's probably one of my favorites. It's definitely one of my favorite ships in all of Star Wars, and so I love using it. It's 14 points, but it's only speed 2. That's his biggest drawback. It does have 5 hull. It's fairly tanky. Uses 3 blue against squadrons and a blue and a black against ships, which is really nice. And of course, it does have the bomber keyword, which means that you don't have to throw away its critical icons when it rolls them. You get to, of course, count those crits and also resolve the critical effect. And so the B-Wings, really, they're just a phenomenally good fighter with one crucial drawback. And that crucial drawback is that they're just slow. And there are a number of ways to get around doing this. One of the things that I have done in multiple builds is I've always run rapid launch bays as an option. We'll talk about that. I'm not going to use that in today's build, but what I am going to do is I'm going to do all of my squadrons first. And a lot of times I do ships first, but for this build, we're going to do squadrons first. Now, you can make some changes to a build like this. If you're looking to run a Rebel bomber build or a Rebel B-Wing build or something like that, you can certainly make some adjustments. So I'm going to start off with 4 generic B-Wings. This does require that you have 2 of the Rebel fighter expansion packs, since you get 2 B-Wing squadrons in a pack. If you have more than that, you can certainly kick the numbers up a little bit. If you have less, then you can make some substitutions, and I'll talk about some of those substitutions here in just a minute. We are also going to add some other bombers, but they'll be there to protect the B-Wings as well as doing some other good things. We're going to add the classic X-Wing, and I'm going to run 3 of these there, and I'm going to supplement with a Jan Ors. Jan is just a really, really good, all-around squadron. She used to be a lot better. She used to be a whole lot better. Now, Jan does not have bomber. She certainly doesn't. She has counter 2. She rolls a black die against ships, so she's probably going to get a damage in. And she has intel. Now, that doesn't make everybody heavy anymore. Intel has been changed to just give nearby squadrons grit. And grit means that you can move if you're only engaged by 1. So it's still a little bit. It's kind of like the old Intel, but it's great. But one of the reasons I chose Jan as opposed to a generic version is that Jan has the ability to let other squadrons use her brace tokens. So with a couple of escorts here, a couple of X-Wings, you can quite easily get braces. Basically protect your B-Wings. Protect Jan also, and spend her braces. Now, the X-Wings have 5 health also, and so with a couple of braces available for multiple X-Wings, you can really do a lot. Jan and X-Wings are very tanky Rebel squadron presence. And of course, if you're low on B-Wings, you can certainly increase the number of X-Wings. If you have the Rogues and Villains pack, you can add. I'm going to add 1 more squadron. Now, this does offset my number here to an odd number, and that's okay. This is kind of a flexible build. You can make some changes to it. You can have 1 more or 1 less squadron, because usually it's always better to run even number of squadrons. But I want to showcase another squadron that most people ignore, but I love, and it's the Skurg H6 bomber. This is a in one of my first tournaments, I did really well and almost won. But it was one of my first competitive outings, and I ran a number of these. Now you only get this in the rogues and the rogues and villains or the scoundrels and whatever the scum pack. And you only get, I believe, one of these, so you're not going to have a whole lot of these probably. I happened to buy quite a few of these packs, so I think I have 5 of these packs, so I can run 5 Skirgs if I really want to. But they're a little more expensive than the B-Wing at 16 points, and they have a little bit of pros and cons compared to the B-Wing. The biggest pro here is that they're speed 3 instead of speed 2. And this makes for a much more usable ship, a lot more flexibility. There's just such a big difference between speed 2 and speed 3, especially in the early game. It makes a pretty big difference. Now, they do lose a squadron die with only 2 blue, but you're not really using them for squadrons. You've got the X-Wings for that, and if need be, you've got the B-Wings for that as well. They do have 6 hull, so they're going to be alive for a little bit longer. And of course, they do have that blue and black. Blue and black against a ship is just so very good, and I love it. So we're going to leave that there. It also has bomber. It has grit naturally, and this is just such a great ability because a lot of times you have a big squadron presence. Your opponent's going to send in like one TIE fighter or something like that to try and tie everybody up, and grit won't allow that to happen. So that's pretty fun. Now they do also have heavy. And that means that they can't really dogfight. But again, here's a ship that doesn't really want to dogfight. They don't do too well if they're all by themselves, if you've got Skirgs. But if they're supported, they can really get the job done and have the mobility to do it. They're also going to be a little more expensive than the B-Wing at 16 points. But I'm going to put 1 in here for this build. This is going to bring our squadron total up to 130 points. There's a good amount of squadrons. A lot of bombers. Lots of blue and black dice. And this is me just kind of working with it because I happen to only have 4 B. Well, I might have more than 4 B-Wings now. I think I have 6. But then I also wanted to put a Skirg bomber in here. I think a lot of people tend to buy 2 of a lot of things. So I think 4 B-Wings, it's safe to assume a lot of Rebel players might have 4 B-Wings. But if not, again, get creative with it. There's lots of different bombers that are out there. You can easily substitute Y-Wings for some of this stuff. They have less dice, but they're also a lot cheaper and more flexible. So you can definitely do a lot of different things with your squadrons. But the key here is we've got B-Wings, we've got X-Wings protecting them, and we got Jan protecting the X-Wings and giving us a little bit of grit for the rest of our squadrons if we need it. So I think we're pretty well-rounded right here. The X-Wings themselves are they are a bomber. They have the red die. We're going to put a bomber command center in here. And we're going to have a lot of anti-squadron dice, so the X-Wings are going to be our primary blower-upper of enemy squadrons. All right, so let's talk about the ships, because we need to be able to activate these ships, this fleet. I'm not usually a big fan of like only 2 ship builds when you're running a lot of squadrons. I like to have as many ships as I can. There's always that chance that you're going to get tabled with 130 something worth of squadrons still on the board, and so I always hate that. So I'm going to be running a number of ships. I'm not going with a huge ship here. I'm preparing to take some losses with this one. So I'm going to start off with my flagship first. And we're going to do an assault frigate. This is a very well-rounded ship, maybe the best overall ship in the game, even though it's also potentially the ugliest. The assault frigate Mark IIB is a all-comers type of ship that does a little bit of everything, and it does it all. It's like a jack of all trades, and I really like this ship. It's going to be relatively lightly equipped, as are most of the ships that I'm going to put in this build, because I want to have 4 ships. And I want there to be points to run 4 different ships that can all be supporting carriers for this particular build. All right, so let's start off with our commander. Points are a thing, and one of the best commanders for bombers, in my opinion, is going to be General Dodonna. He is going to work. He's an all-comers type of commander. Also, he works in virtually all situations, whether your opponent hits an asteroid, or your ship-to-ship combat creates a critical, or an objective creates a critical, or your bombers get a critical in there. Dodonna is going to do lots of good work, and he's only 20 points. It's just a win-win situation. All right. Next up, I do want this ship to be activating squadrons with its squadron value of 3. So I'm going to give it flight controllers because I am probably going to go up against some enemy squadrons and I want to take them out swiftly. So the Mark II here will be primarily a good ship, a really good candidate for activating X-Wings. Or potentially Jan and the B-Wings if you're going to be throwing some blue dice at enemy squadrons. Any of these are good options. You kind of don't want it to activate the Skurg, though, because it's, unless, of course, you have no option. But in either way, it's still an extra blue die for whoever you activate. It only loses value if your opponent has no squadrons, but that's a good problem to have, because if your opponent has no squadrons against a build like this, it's going to be a really, really good game for you. You're going to gain a lot of victory points. All right. Since our flagship is here, I will use the defensive retrofit. Again, that's one of the great things about the assault frigate is that it can do so many things. And when you guarantee that you're going to be able to brace against that one big attack that finally comes in, ECM, you're going to be glad you took ECM because it's your flagship. If it wasn't my flagship, I probably wouldn't take ECM. But yeah, we're definitely going to make sure we do that. We'll probably take an engineering command first turn. So this way we can use ECM twice this game. We'll probably need it. A lot of people will definitely want to kill this ship. Next up, we're going to add a bomber command center. And of course, those are, if your opponent can't kill your flagship, one of the next best things they can do to kind of cripple your fleet is to take out the bomber command center. So I'm going to run a GR-75 with a bomber command center. This one will probably have maybe the most upgrades of anybody in the fleet. This will be activating squadrons as well, so I'm going to give it boosted comms so I can activate up to long range. This way I can keep it relatively safe and not have to be in too close. And that's definitely a good thing to do. We're going to give it the title Bright Hope because that's just an amazing title for keeping your ship alive, even when your opponent happens to get those accuracies. And this might be overkill. Here's an option that you can choose not to go with if you want, but I'm going to put Major Durlin on this ship. He's an additional damage reduction on a ship that already has scatter and damage reduction. He's for that incredibly unlucky chance that your opponent, gets the accuracy and the extra damage to make up for Bright Hope and still has enough to kill you. Durlin can help, save you damage. They're probably going to want to kill this thing quite a bit. And he also works against squadrons too. And even if they can get into your rear arc and still kind of get you that way, Durlin's going to help out. So, again, he's optional. You don't have to use him. He is kind of expensive, but it's worth really protecting your investment. Alternatively, you could go with Lando in a case like this too. That is definitely an option. But I went with Major Durlin. I want to be able to use him a lot. I think we'll get attacked a lot. This ship does kind of have to be close, right? It has to be at least moderately close because it needs to be in range with Bomber Command Center. It needs to be in range of your squadrons that are hitting the enemy ships. So therefore, it's probably going to be at least at long range of enemy ships. And that means a lot of red dice. Maybe the accuracy comes through, but usually if you're playing it at long range, it might not be enough leftover red dice to kill you. And that's what Durlin is there to help mitigate. Okay, we're moving on to the next ship, and it's going to be one of the iconic rebel bombers of Star Wars Armada, and that is the Nebulon. We are going to, well, not a bomber, but a bomber support ship, or a squadron support ship. We're going to be running an escort frigate, and the escort frigate is going to have Yavaris on there. Now, Yavaris did get changed, and it's instead of letting you attack twice, it's just giving you an extra die. This is still going to work well with B-Wings. It does not even have to, though. You can use this with whatever you want. You can use this with X-Wings. You can use this with the Skurg. It's still an extra die. It's going to be great. And the cool thing is, you've absolutely still got your Bomber Command Center there. So the extra die, you get some rerolls. Everything's groovy, all right? One option I'm going to throw out here is if you're confident that people are going to go for Yavaris instead of the GR-75, depending on how you want to fly it, a good substitution for Major Durlin is somebody like Torin Farr. She's giving you blue dice rerolls. That'll work on your squadron to squadron shenanigans. Her range is a little bit more restrictive, though. But she can also help support those ships that are throwing out blue dice. We don't have like very blue dice heavy ships, so that's why I kind of opted not to use her in this one. We do have some flak from the Nebulon. And we have like a little bit of blue dye on the assault frigate, a little bit on the sides of the Nebulon, but just not very much. So Tauren would be mostly for the X-wings and B-wings if they have to attack squadrons, and maybe in case we roll, an accuracy on the blue and a blank on the black, maybe we then Bomber Command Center the black, and then Tauren Far the blue. That can potentially happen with a B-wing, but it's kind of rare. And she really doesn't help out the X-wings if they're attacking ships either. All right, so we're gonna put one more thing on the Yavaris. We're gonna put an officer on there, and we're gonna give them the flight commander. What he's gonna let us do is do our Squadron Command after we execute a maneuver. One of the reasons for this is Yavaris is also a priority target for this list. Maybe a little bit less so now than it used to be. It's still dangerous, but it's not quite as dangerous. If you lose this, okay, well that's 2 squadrons you don't get to activate. It's not the end of the world, and a few, maybe some less dice. But this lets you kind of stay farther back, do that Squadron Command, take your shots, then move in, and then activate. So it allows you to stay farther back, and I really like that flexibility that it gives. A last ship we're going to add, and this is maybe one of the linchpins. It's not like the total linchpin for the build, but it really adds some flavor. Is we're going to add a Pelta with all fighters follow me. That brings us to 400 points exactly. That's it right there. We're adding a Pelta with all fighters follow me. So look, the Pelta is not the best. It's not the best carrier ship. It's certainly not. Again, and you could even, if you wanted to run more of a carrier version of it, you drop Major Durlin, you'd have enough points to upgrade to the command ship. That could be a thing. I think you're going to probably lose some squadrons. I don't think he's really going to be activating squadrons anyway. In this particular build, the reason I went with a cheaper ship is here's a ship that's probably going to be doing a Squadron Command, taking a token, and not activating squadrons, and maybe getting close enough to enemy ships to throw some black dice. Right? This is the kind of ship you want to make your target. It's kind of slow, but you're going to be like, this is the one you want to put in the line of fire. This is the one you want to maybe get in the way of other enemies. This is the one you can afford to lose, because you really only need all fighters follow me for the first, round or two, before you're probably getting pretty close to engagement range, and then your B-wings really won't need that speed boost anymore. All fighters follow me is going to increase the speed of all of the ships that you activate, and that's really going to help your B-wings get into position. Your X-wings too. I mean, like all of your ships, every ship in your fleet is going to get advantage from this. This is just a great rebel support card to use, because unless they're running a bunch of A-wings, they're definitely going to get some great advantage from this particular card. So, and it brings us to 400. There's not going to be an initiative bid here. And again, I said this was flexible. Maybe you want to drop some things. Maybe you want to drop a single squadron. There's a lot of room. There's a lot of room for changing things around. I think Major Durlin's one of the easiest points to negotiate with. I think you could drop a squadron. You'd still have, an even number, which gives you the best deployment. Because again, we've got 7, 8, 9 squadrons here, so we've got a lot of room. We've got a lot of wiggle room. There's a lot of other things that we can do. But this is a way that a build that has a lot of ways to take advantage of the B-wing. I want to hear what you guys think, though, because we're gonna look in the in the comments again. Don't forget to enter to win that lightsaber giveaway. Well, we also have a family-friendly Discord. The conversation definitely continues over in Discord. I would love to hear from you guys over there. We have objectives to add, and this one is going to be fairly simple. There are some pretty good objectives that favor squadron-heavy builds, especially with bombers. I'm going to put Precision Strike on here. We can get lots of extra victory points with this card, and that is nice. Plus, it gives us a little bit of rerolls too. That's a nice little bonus. And then, of course, we're going to run for our yellow we're going to run Fighter Ambush. This is another great way to mitigate the speed of the B-Wings, and it's that you can put your B-Wings and your X-Wings and everything a little bit farther out. But it's dangerous, though. If you're running Fighter Ambush, I would not suggest putting them like right on top of the enemy fleets, because your fleet simply won't be able to activate them in time. So they'd be sitting there, without the benefit of the cards like Bomber Command Center, without the benefit of flight controllers, without the benefit of Yvaris. They'd still get all fighters follow me, but they wouldn't be able to be triggered by any ships, so that wouldn't have any effect on them. The only thing in your fleet that would still affect them if you put them out that far would be Dodonna, but your opponent's not going to fly his ships directly into your bombers. So if you use Fighter Ambush, what you want to do is put them just a little bit farther up than you normally would. Maybe one movement beyond what they normally have. In the case of the B-Wings, maybe a little farther than that. But you want your ships to be able to catch up with them on the next turn. You want your ships to be able to activate them on the next turn and just treat them as though they had taken 1 or 2 additional moves. That's really going to give you the flexibility to keep your squadrons safe, and also, get them in a position to start gaining victory tokens. Now, if your opponent has a bunch of speed 5, like interceptors and stuff, then maybe, bring them back just a little bit. So you have to keep in mind what you're up against with that one. And then for our blue, we're going to go with an oldie but a goodie, and that's going to be superior positions. This one lets you your opponent deploy everything first. And, of course, since you have so many squadrons and ships that are capable of getting rear attacks, you're going to be gaining lots of victory tokens here. And so that's the build. That's the build. I feel like it's a kind of an overall solid, respectable build. We've got enough ships that hopefully we don't get tabled. We have an awful lot of anti-ship bomber firepower, and we've got General Dodonna there to make sure that when those crits do come in, that they're going to be the nastiest possible crit we can make them be. All right, guys, be sure to check out Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder. I'll put a link in the video description, and check out the other links that are down there as well. You can check out my social media links, Patreon, if you're interested in becoming part of the team over there. Discord, we have a family-friendly Discord, and just join and chat, and it's absolutely free. Become part of the community. Would love to have you. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this channel possible, so thank you for your continued support. And always remember, if you are doing a Death Star trench run, try to pull up a little bit sooner than you might otherwise do it, because you might think you can hold it, but so did Porkins.